Well, thank you so much. I think you covered it. I'm just really excited to be here with you, Meg. So thank you. Yeah, so much for having me on. Lovely seeing you.
Awesome. All right, let's dive into questions here. I want to talk about your inspiration. What really jump started this very bold decision at the age of 35 to sell all your stuff and move to Europe? Because I've been ready to pull the trigger at times, but then I look around and I'm like, oh no, but that's like my favorite blanket, or like, what am I going to do with that couch? So talk to me about it. What was the kind of like oomph moment that moved this from maybe I'll do this to I'm doing this?
Yes, love this question because, moving to Spain at 35 wasn't something I just woke up one morning and thought, I'm going to do this tomorrow. Like, probably like you just mentioned, and a lot of women out there, it was a dream I had for, more than a decade. So this is something I had thought about, but didn't actually pull the trigger on. And it was a combo of things. One, I had had the dream for a long time. Two, I lived a pretty cush, comfortable life in Austin, Texas before I moved. But it kind of felt like the same day, Groundhog Day, year after year. But I'm not sure that I really noticed that in the moment. So in 2014, I did a quick trip through Morocco and Spain. And I actually had done my master's in Spain a few years prior. So being in Spain, I hadn't been there in a while, and it just awakened something inside of me. It made me feel so alive. And going back to Austin after that trip, I really saw clearly that I had just kind of been sleepwalking through life the past few years. And that's really was that catalyst to like, you know what? I need to do this now before I never do it.
Honestly, as you're talking, I'm kind of continuously reminded of a lot of the, and I hate this phrase, but a lot of the like midlife crisis kind of things that people did. And growing up, like midlife crisis, at least for my age range, heavy millennial here, sorry, was like your 40s, right? And so I think what we're seeing is a huge wave of people who, A, we've just come out of the pandemic, but also B, like this is a bunch of people who know, A, life can change in an instant. And also, life doesn't change unless you do something, right? Like, nobody's going to come along and be like, bam, shove you over to Europe. Now you have to survive there. So, I think it's a huge turning point and probably something a lot of people are going through right now.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I've been working with women who want to move abroad in their 30s, 40s, and above since before the pandemic. But you're so right. Since the pandemic, just that curiosity, and not even that curiosity, but that will to make it happen, I feel has just increased in all ages. And really, it's, part of remote work, that rise of remote work, making people can now untether their lives, but also people saying what you just said, like, this is my one life. What am I doing here, sitting with this dream, living a life that I'm not even happy with? Maybe I should finally do something about this. And luckily, it's never been easier to move abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk like what parts do you think are easier now, and what parts do you think people really face challenges at when you're trying to look for work abroad?
So yes, there's kind of two ways that you can work and live abroad. So the biggest challenge is going to be for someone who is interested in finding work abroad. So, and I think that's a big challenge and a big eye opener because a lot of people that I work with, women that I work with, they just assume I can apply to jobs. Let's say Europe is really the continent that most people want to move to that I work with. And so people think that I can just apply for jobs in Europe, I'll get an interview, and then I'll get hired, just like it happens in the US. And really, I have to be realistic with people because I don't want to give false hope. It doesn't really work like that because the unique challenge is that if you're coming from the US or from a foreign country, you're going to need a visa, right? To live and work in a foreign country. And those are not easy to come by. They're just not. And so I like to start with that, let people know that's going to be a challenge if you're looking for a job abroad, even if you're highly skilled at what you do. And that's really because, just to help people understand why, is that if we're talking about Europe or the UK or just any country in general, those countries have to do a labor market test. And really, that just means they have to demonstrate that there's no one in their country. And if we're talking about the EU, no one in the EU that is qualified and available to do that job before they can even consider you. So I just like to help people understand like why it's so difficult to get hired in a foreign country. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. I do want to give people some hope and some tips. I say for people who have their heart set on finding that job abroad, it's not impossible. I actually was able to get a work visa in Spain about 7 years ago. And so what you can do is really seek out countries that offer labor shortage visas and highly skilled position visas. And these are going to be in countries like the UK and Ireland, the Netherlands, Denmark, just to name a few. And don't let that stress you out. Of course, if you work in tech, it's going to be easier. But sometimes these labor shortages, or you're going to see, are for jobs that are like, hairdressers or dance teachers, or even recruiters. So definitely, if you're interested, do that. Another challenge is just be realistic about what you're going to get paid. If you're making six figures in the US, probably not going to get paid six figures abroad, especially if you're looking at Europe. So just be realistic. You're going to make less money, but also your cost of living will probably be less too.
Okay. Do you think that there are any misconceptions of challenges that especially women might face when you're considering a move abroad? I mean, I can't imagine how long this answer is going to be. So let's just go from there.
Yeah, I'm just going to boil it down to the main one that I see, and this is internal and external, and it's ageism. I think that's the biggest one limiting belief and the biggest projection that people will put on you as a woman if you're telling people, your friends, family, community, society, coworkers, hey, I really want to move abroad. And you're going to hear people say, oh, really? Aren't you too old for that? Or isn't that something you do out of college? Like, what are you going to do about your career? And what about kids and marriage if you don't have those things yet? And so that's something that comes up for women in general, whether you want to move abroad or not. People are always questioning that. But I think that can be a big limiting belief for a lot of women who just think, I am too old, or it's too late to do something like this and really shake up my life. And so I think if you can get through that hurdle, that can really help you start seeing opportunities and possibilities instead of always hitting that roadblock of like, this is crazy. What am I doing?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about remote work as it pertains to living and working abroad. Do you think that there are opportunities or challenges that women in your community face when they're trying to not only navigate a foreign country, but remote work within that foreign country?
Yeah. So, yes. So again, finding a job abroad is going to be difficult, not impossible. And then from what I've seen and kind of some of the data out there, remote work is much more prevalent in the US than it is in a lot of other countries. So if you're looking for a remote job abroad, that's going to be challenging as well. So that's like the extra challenge. But I think the opportunity, though, is, what I really encourage people to do is to find a remote job that you can take with you. So you don't have to we're not limited like before, where in order to live in France, you kind of had to find a job in France. Now, possibly you could have a remote job that you could take, to a foreign country. And I really encourage people to do that. And that is an opportunity because these digital nomad visas, if we're talking about, you need a visa to live abroad, digital nomad visas have really made it much more possible for people to take their remote jobs abroad.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think that's a really good call. I mean, I think it also kind of reflects what we're seeing, right? Is that pre-pandemic, a lot of people started with this idea of remote work or working abroad. And I feel like it was kind of limited to like tech people.
Yep.
If you moved someplace to like be a tour guide, I feel like that was another big
Yeah.
one. So as we're thinking about these things, it doesn't look like it used to. And so I think it is really important that we don't think about these jobs like we used to, as like a kind of like a specialized, rarefied kind of thing, right? Like they're out there and it is possible.
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah. Can I just add something? I want to
Yeah,
add
please.
something to that because you just really hit the nail on the head there of, how things have changed. Kind of the myths that I always try to bust that come up is, a lot of people assume, if they want to move abroad, they either need to be wealthy, they need to get transferred with a job to a foreign country, or they have to teach English. And so just like you said, like we're not limited by those constraints anymore. There are plenty of ways where you can take your job abroad. And actually, when I was at Power to Fly, Power to Fly is a global team. And I was so fortunate to be able to live in Spain and work for Power to Fly, a US-based company. So that there are companies out there that will allow employees. It can be, a challenging to find them, but they are out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also really important to remember or to like keep in mind that these jobs don't always look like what you think they're going to, right? I mean,
Sure.
I took a job with Power to Fly to basically be a recruiter, and now I do this. So it's one of those things that I feel like pre-pandemic, a lot of people didn't maybe have the visibility of here's what it actually looks like, right? It's not you're not just like getting a laptop, suddenly I'm a developer or something and I'm working from the beach in Thailand. That's not how these things work. Do you think that that is also part of it? Like kind of making sure that people have realistic expectations or they're not kind of picturing an eat, pray, love fantasy?
Yes, because well, one, again, the visa is always going to be the biggest challenge. So you got to figure out that piece of the puzzle, or you can't even really, live abroad, whether you're working remotely or working for a company, locally. But also, I would say, like, be realistic about the opportunities that there are for you. So really look at your sector. Are you working in a sector that can be taken remote? So yes, tech we know is very easy or easier, one of the easier roles. And but if you are a nurse or a doctor, right, that's going to be challenging. So you really need to look at your sector, but also you need to understand if your company, allows you to, has a work from anywhere policy. And a lot of companies don't. So that's the honest truth. I know a lot of people out there probably have inquired or maybe no, their company is not one that has this policy. And unfortunately, not as many as I would like to see out there have really embraced this post-pandemic. But I think we have to understand why companies are saying no. It's not just because they want to say no. It's from a company's point of view, there are tax and legal obligations and issues that they need to consider if an employee, a W-2 employee, is going to work from abroad. And most likely your company, it probably isn't just set up to be compliant. That's why they're saying no. But when we're being realistic, we can look at, okay, what are the options? I always tell people, let's be solution based, because if you want to move abroad, you're going to face challenges. It's not, an if, it's a, when, right?
Yeah.
And one of those challenges is going to be the work situation. It's the visa and the work. So if you are working for a company that doesn't have a work from anywhere policy, what can you do? Well, there are some solutions like employers of record and third-party payroll providers. And those just allow companies to employ people in countries where they don't have a tax entity established. So they're kind of like a middleman between you and your company. So you can talk to your employer in HR to see if they're open to that. Or if that's not a solution, then you need to look for a company that does allow work from anywhere, right? And like you said, working from anywhere isn't always as glamorous as it might look in a photo of, yes, somebody sitting by the poolside in Thailand or the beach. There are moments of chasing Wi-Fi, of, noises coming from all around in the apartment that you've rented, working, crazy hours sometimes. Sometimes if you have a flex hours, that's great. You can kind of work when you want, but if you're trying to match your US hours while you're in Europe or somewhere else in the world, you might be working 3 p.m. to after midnight. So just be realistic about what you're getting into and if that's something that you really want to embrace.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So while we're kind of in this mindset of like, all right, I'm gonna pull the trigger, we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be exciting, and I'm a little scared, but it's gonna be great. As you are kind of contemplating that major life change, what do you think people should be thinking about? Should there be certain things on or off their minds? Let's talk about what that practicality looks like.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about the practical, and then I'm going to throw a few more in there. So really, there's 4 areas that people just need to focus on, right? If they want to move abroad. Because if you start Googling and you go down that rabbit hole, you're going to get very overwhelmed by all of the micro decisions that come along with any, major life change, but with the move abroad. But if you just focus on these 4 main pillars, this is what's going to get you there. These are the big problems that you need to solve in order to make that move. And so number 1 is, we sort of touch on this, but just define what a move abroad looks like to you. So again, you don't have to teach English abroad. You don't have to give up your career, right? There is a way to do it in a manner that makes sense for you, that works for you. That I tell people, you can find a way to move abroad on your terms, right? So what does that move abroad look like to you? Are you working, maybe you're working part-time and your salary, your US salary is enough to sustain like a full-time lifestyle abroad. Like maybe you want to live in a big city. Maybe you just want to live 6 months abroad and the other 6 months in the US. So really get clear on what does a move abroad mean to you? Because that idea is very different from person to person.
Oh,
and once
yeah.
you have, right?
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
No,
No,
go ahead.
Well, what comes to mind is a former coworker of ours, Amy. Remember, she was a digital nomad for I think 6 or 8 months, my first or second year with the company. And so yeah, she was going around and whatever, but she wasn't moving to a foreign country. She was I think she sold all of her stuff in Louisiana, and then she was in Turkey for a couple months. She went to London. She was, oh yeah, because she was visiting various team members. It was great. But yeah, I mean, that's also something I think that it is important to think about this, that these journeys don't always look the same, and they don't have to be the same.
Mhm.
And what kind of experience are you actually looking for, right? Like, do you want to completely change your life? And so you're just going to blow it all up and start from scratch. Again, no judgment either way. We've all been there. We've been, at the point of like, well, I'm Brittany 2007. Am I doing bangs or am I moving to Europe? Like, which one is it? So I think it is really important that we think about like what's the experience you actually want. Do you want to completely move and pack up and everything, or do you just want that new experience that you could get by being a nomad for a season of your life, as opposed to saying, all right, well, we're done with America, now we're going to this country. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And also nothing ever has to be permanent, right? So you don't have to blow up your life and move abroad. You could go do a tester, you could do a scouting trip, a tester year, so that kind of thing. So really define what a move abroad looks like to you. That's the first one. So I'm going through the 4 areas. 2, I've said this before many times, visa. Understand what visa you would need if you have a certain country in mind. And do you qualify for that visa? That's the next thing, because we need to be realistic. And I keep mentioning the visa, but in the case of maybe someone who wants to be a digital nomad, isn't looking to live a year in Spain, maybe just wants to hop around the world. If you're a US citizen, most countries, you don't even need a visa to be there for up to 90 days. And in some countries, that's 180 days. So you may not even need a visa depending on what kind of move or what kind of change you're looking for. And I will just say this, because a lot of people don't know this. If you are looking to move to Europe and you're just like, I can't find a visa that works, US citizens can live in Albania visa-free for up to a year. So that could be like a little tester. Just you can pick up and go to Albania tonight if you wanted to.
Heck yeah,
So
Albania. Thanks, y'all.
Albania is the new Croatia, they say. So we got through, yes, define what a move abroad looks like to you, figure out the visa situation. And number 3 is really, I think, why people are here. It's, how are you going to work? How are you financially supporting yourself? You got to figure out that work piece, because most likely you probably cannot just pick up and take your current job abroad. So you have to figure out how to solve that challenge, right? Don't let that discourage you. You can find a way. It may take you some time to figure that out, but you can. But you do need to figure that out in order to move abroad. And then the 4th one really is those limiting beliefs from everything what we touched on, like, I'm too old, it's too late in life, this is crazy, I can't do this. All of those limiting beliefs that come up of, that hold you back from making changes in your life. Because, right, those limiting beliefs just want to keep us safe and protect us and keep us in the known, right? In our day-to-day that is very predictable. And once you try to break out of that, that's when our minds try to hold us back. So those are the 4 things I would say to focus on. But I do just want to add a few other things that will come up if you're interested in moving abroad and, you start going down that rabbit hole. It's going to be a roller coaster of emotions. One day you're going to be like, I can do this. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Can't wait. And the next day you're going to be like, what am I thinking? Like, this is actually crazy. Who do I think I am? So having those doubts, that emotional roller coaster is totally normal. Also, I tell people, you don't have to do this alone, right? Like, you are not alone. There are thousands of women out there just like you who want to do this or who have done this and are trying to do this. So definitely turn to, communities and find support online. She Hit Refresh is my community for women over 30 who want to move abroad. You can tap into that, but there's tons of communities out there. And number 3 is one of my most favorite pieces of advice to give to someone, because someone gave this to me and I've held on to this in all aspects of my life. That has really served me well. And I think that's, that you don't have to share your dream with everyone, right? Because you can be excited about moving abroad or the idea of it, and then you start to share that with people who aren't excited about that for you and are going to project their fears on you. And it can really make you feel discouraged and that, this is crazy. And so I think it's really healthy to have those boundaries and to share that dream with people who get you, and not only get you, but have done the thing you want to do, right? Because those are the people that you really should be seeking advice from, because they can give you that real talk of like, hey, I did it, and this is, what I think.
Yeah, of course. I mean, loved ones are great. They have concerns and things, and that's awesome. But you're right. I mean, it's like anything else, right? You tell people your baby name and they're going to find a reason to criticize. So especially something like this where it's so big, I think you're also going to come up a lot against people who maybe had this dream for themselves and didn't do anything about it, because those people, in my experience, can sometimes be the biggest naysayers. So I think that's really important. Let's talk about your community for a minute here. So when it comes to She Hit Refresh, what kind of like support or guidance do y'all offer? What kind, what kind of support is there for people?
Yes. Well, with She Hit Refresh, so we're an online community and there's over 12,000 women in there around the world. And one, I think it really just helps validate women's ideas and dreams. Like you come into the space and you're no longer crazy, right? And I say this, I'm sure a lot of people out there have great support systems, but not everyone is so fortunate to have that where they are and may not even know anyone who has done something like this. So when you come into the community, you are surrounded by women who just get you. You don't have to explain, right? So that I think is really empowering. But two, as I mentioned, once you start Googling and trying to figure out how to move abroad, there's a lot of noise and information out there. So She Hit Refresh will really help cut through that noise and focus you on what is going to get you to that finish line, right? So you're not wasting your time trying to figure out or going down the wrong path. And so how do we do that? Well, there's tons of resources on our website. So things like, if you do want to find a job in Europe, we've narrowed down the 11 easiest countries where you can find a job, right? Where you're going to have the best chance of finding a job. Or maybe you're looking for that work from anywhere unicorn out there company to work for. And, we've narrowed that down to 15 companies who actually have work from anywhere policies. They don't have these policies like Airbnb that it's only 3 months out of the year. These are companies where you can really live abroad. And so we help you cut through the noise and really just find the information you're looking for. And I think additionally too, we have programs also that help give you the information you need to conquer these problems, such as, identifying high paying, remote jobs that you can do, where to find those jobs, strategies for finding work from anywhere jobs. I find like the job thing is a lot of people's main obstacle. And we also partner with companies that help people find remote work, or I should say work from anywhere jobs, not just remote work. And so we're really there to help you figure out your biggest challenges, which for most people, it's going to be a visa and the work situation, but also, the other challenge that I mentioned, limiting beliefs. We're constantly helping women work through those and just letting them know that you can totally do this.
That's awesome. So would you say that the majority of the community is built on people who are in process of this? Like once people are able to find their job and move, are they still part of the She Hit Refresh community?
Yes, that is probably the most beautiful thing I think I see happen in this community. So it is made up of women who want to move abroad or are trying to make it happen, women who are curious to find out how to make it happen. But then we have those women who have made it and have done it, and they are in there. They're kind of like the big sisters, right? And helping. And you'll see any by the time anyone posts a question, we have those women swoop in and give their feedback in the comments and share resources and advice, and even say things like, hey, if you want to hop on a call, I'm happy to do that. Just send me a DM. So it is great, especially if you're looking to move to a specific country. You'll find women in there who have already walked that path, or women who have a certain career. If you're a teacher or whatnot, you can find women who have that career path and have found a way to make that work abroad. So really it is that partnership of those who are on the path to doing it and those who have done it in there that make the community such a powerful and engaged and empowering space.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so we talked about a lot of the stuff that kind of predates big shift like this. But let's talk about one of the kind of realities that maybe a little bit lower on people's lists. Once people move to a new place, a new country, a new area, whatever, how do you recommend that transplants connect and build their network? Is this something where the community is great for that because you have a huge batch of expats? Like, talk me through this. What does that kind of support look like?
Yes, this is so important because having a support network abroad is, I think, integral to the success of being abroad, right? Because if this will feel like a very lonely process if you're doing it on your own. You're uprooting yourself from everything and starting anew in a completely foreign country. So that is exhilarating and thrilling and exciting, but there are going to be many moments where you feel very alone because, you know, you just don't have that community yet. But there are things you can do to help you have that in place when you go. So yes, I would say tap into She Hit Refresh. You know, the beauty of online communities is that you're already making friends online before you even move. So you can already have people that you can meet in person once you're there. And not just She Hit Refresh. I mean, another community I love is Girl Gone International. And they have chapters in every city around the world. Even when I travel, I tap into Girl Gone International just to meet like-minded women when I'm in a foreign country. So tap into those. You can already start meeting people, ask questions. And even once you're abroad, then I would say tap into those localized Facebook groups for like expats in Paris or, you know, Americans in Berlin, because you're going to find all kinds of meetups, gatherings. And then, of course, meetup.com is just the best resource out there to find people who are like-minded in all different kinds of ways. So not just maybe women who moved abroad, but people who share the same hobbies. If you're into hiking, book clubs, whatever, meetup.com. Once you move abroad, I would definitely tap into that and meet people. That's how I met a lot of my friends that I still have, and I've been living in Spain for 8 years now, met them through these online groups and took those online friendships to real life friendships.
Awesome. Very, very cool.
Um,
All right. We only have 3 minutes left. I want to make sure we respect your calendar so you're able to get back to your work, as important as it is. In the last couple minutes we have, what do you want people to remember from today? If they only leave with one thing, what do you want that one thing to be?
Okay. Well, you know, what I always say is you're never too old and it's never too late. I cannot stress that enough. If you're out there watching this, write that down because I guarantee you this limiting belief is going to come up at some point. And if you don't have this limiting belief, oh my God, then you are already well ahead of the pack. But write this down. It's never too old. You're never too old. It's never too late. Because I see this on a daily basis. Like I said, I work with women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s who are uprooting their lives and, you know, making these radical changes. And also, you know, these women many of them have had this dream for a long time. So it's never too late to finally make this dream come true.
I like that a lot. Cepee, thank you so, so much for joining us today. Last thing I want to ask you, if people want to follow along, you know, connect, learn more about the org, what should they know? Where can they go?
Yes, thank you so much, Meg, for having me on. It's been so great talking to you. I would tell people to head to the website, shehitrefresh.com. You'll find everything you need to know there. You'll have the link to our Facebook group, and you'll just have a lot of resources on the website that you can find there. If anyone is interested in moving abroad or just understanding how you can do that in more depth, I'm running a masterclass in January. So it's a 4-day masterclass. So come find, you know, I'll dive in more in depth into those topics of defining your dream, figuring out the visa, the work situation, and the limiting beliefs. And you can find that information on the website.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much, Cepee. It's wonderful to get to connect with you again. And I cannot wait to see what amazing stuff happens with She Hit Refresh in the coming weeks and months.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited now to be watching the summit. I'm excited for this one. So thanks for having me here. I'm going to be a participant now.
Oh, enjoy it. It's a good time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.